Hello everyone, welcome. I'm going to talk today about as usual, different things, but I'm going to start with pointing out the difference between apologizing and asking for forgiveness. And I'm going to tell you a story, an anecdote from my childhood. Some of you enjoyed this, just one little one. Remember when this was a pivotal point in my life, actually. It shaped my life, I think, forever, because decisions were taken after this little incident that I'm going to tell you about, that actually affected the rest of my life. And it was I don't know how old I was, perhaps 9 or something like that. And you remember that I was raised by nuns and all that. Okay, so during this one specific year, the local cinemas or one theater actually gave the nuns films for them to show to us. They provided the equipment and everything to show us these films, and we saw everything. The Song of Bernadette. All right. So we loved, we had those films on Sundays. I believe it was about 5 o'clock, something like that. We all look forward to that. It was the highlight of the week. If you had done something terribly wrong, or you had enough points to have to be punished, or you couldn't go to that was the punishment, you couldn't go and see the film. Instead, you have to go to the classroom and learn your lessons or write something, the typical thing. And one of my friends said, "Oh, I know what the film is going to be this week. It's going to be Laurel and Hardy." We loved Laurel and Hardy. Everyone does. I have to tell you, in Spain, they dub the films, so there were no subtitles. But they must have been dubbed well enough, because we loved it. It was funny. The thing is that when in those days at any rate, when they dubbed a film, it was always with a Mexican accent, with a Mexican rhythm of speech. And so it was different, and exotic enough, which played into being a foreign film kind of thing. Anyway, it must have been well dubbed, because we all laughed and we all loved it. And this friend said to me, "It's going to be Laurel and Hardy." We call them in Spain the fat and the skinny, or something along those lines. Laurel and Hardy is too difficult. All right, so I was punished that week, and I knew I couldn't go, and I had to go to the classroom. I don't know for what, whatever. So I decided to go and ask for forgiveness. That's very Catholic, you understand. The difference is that an apology is not the right word, because an apology is if you made a mistake. If you bump into someone, you apologize, "I'm sorry." But if you have done something wrong, that requires more than an apology. That requires asking for forgiveness. So I decided in my little head that I would go and ask Sister Magdalena for forgiveness. Now, Sister Magdalena was the the deputy superior. I can see her now, very, very wise, very quiet, very observant always. She knew us. She knew each one of us inside out. She didn't speak very, very much, but we respected her. She was wise. Anyway, so I went to her and I said, "Sister, look, I did this week, and I come here to ask for forgiveness. I will never do it again. I did it because blah, blah, blah." I don't know what I said. I kept talking. I used to be good at talking, blah, blah, blah. But I asked for forgiveness. She let me finish. Nuns always do that. They just listen like this. and they let you finish. And then at the end, when I was done, she said, you know, they stand like this, and I said, very well, I forgive you. Oh, thank you, sister. No, but I forgive you, but the punishment will still have to be carried out. She knew. She knew. And very, very quickly I thought of that, and I said, oh, but sister, you see, when I ask for forgiveness, I ask forgiveness for the punishment, because the sin itself can only be forgiven by God. That's pretty good. Don't you think? And, you know, I thought I saw a little smile in her eyes. Anyway, she didn't say anything. She turned around and walked off, but I thought I had seen a smile. And so I thought, okay, I think I can go. I cannot sort of display myself and make myself seen by everybody, but if I hide myself behind the tall girls and so on, you know, perhaps I can sneak in and so on. I did. And she didn't see me. Of course she saw me. they saw everything, but she saw me, but she didn't see me. Okay, so this is an anecdote. This is an example, because I want to get to I hope that I will be able to connect all that I'm going to say and put things together at the end. I don't want to talk about politics because, as I said, it's not one of your favorite subjects with me, and everyone else is talking about it. But just to mention that I watched the John Kennedy, President Kennedy's famous peace speech that Senator Robert Kennedy has. He also made the speech and making reference to his uncle's peace speech in 1963. I watched both, and then I also watched the one YouTube channel called Viva Barnes, where Mr. Barnes is explaining, pausing the speech, the president's speech, and explaining things. I don't care too much for Viva, the other lawyer, is a Canadian lawyer, because he's all over the place, and he takes forever for him to start. He always says, oh, have I got the mic on? Have I got this on? Hold on. And it's 3 minutes have passed and he's still arranging himself there. I don't know why he can't do it at the very beginning. But Mr. Barnes is very knowledgeable and a very shrewd lawyer, and he seems like a decent person to me, and so I was listening to his explanations, and he did explain, I'm sure that you all watched it, certainly the speech, but he made emphasis, Mr. Barnes, on the fact that President Kennedy at this time was addressing the American people, but he was also addressing what we now call the deep state, the intelligence agencies, the industrial, military-industrial complex, and so on. And he was actually saying, no, I'm not going to go that way, creating wars in order to gain business, the business of war, as it were. And he's explaining there about a different kind of investment for America to make, and that is peace and investment and so on. I was thinking about what is happening today, which very much relates to what he was saying in 1963. He would be killed, I think it was 3-5 months later, something like that. And that was probably the speech that gave rise to it. So he was saying, look, instead of going around creating wars everywhere, why don't we invest in peace? Meaning, he wasn't a romantic, he wasn't an idealistic utopia stupidity. He was just saying, look, it might be a very much better investment to actually go to these poor countries in Latin America, in Africa, instead of creating coups and all that sort of thing, to just go and say, okay, one country in Africa, you have gold, you have diamonds. Yes, okay, we don't. So, but we have know-how, we have this, we have that. Let us trade. And so the United States in that way would have retained the respect that people had for it, instead of just at the moment it has lost it completely. And I was wondering what would have happened, how would the world be different now if the United States had embarked on this road, not trying to take advantage of poor countries, with wars, coups, sanctions, and do what we tell you and so on. Plant these crops because this is what our corporations want. But on this other mutual respect kind of thing, perhaps that would be more everlasting and doesn't end up in hatred and resentments and wars and so on. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking that perhaps, although not the same, is probably kind of similar to what China is doing. Now, let me tell you, I don't trust the Chinese too much, not because they deserve my distrust or mistrust. It's just that they never tell you exactly what they are thinking, as it were. So you don't know, they keep you guessing. I mean, if I were Putin, I would have another eye behind my head or my back, because, I know they're friends and at the moment, and they have allegiance and alliances and all these sort of things. But to my way of thinking, the Chinese, you never know. You just never know. Perhaps because it is a different civilization and we find them harder to read or something like that. But the Chinese follow this, the art of war of Sun Tzu, the master son. This is a book written in the 5th century BC, and it's a book that everybody knows. Really, is about the art of war, but it's not just war. It is used for politics, it is used for business. It is required reading in China and in Japan and in many other countries, and it's something that businesses, executives are asked to read and so on. And it is not about war necessarily, but it's about outsmarting your opponent. So that can be applied to war and to many other different, even to the office. Okay, so and that without physical violence, if you can, because when you get to the physical violence, that means that you have lost in a kind of sort of way. So it's about being especially flexible, because a battlefield, whatever battlefield you're in, is always unpredictable. So watch out. And okay, so it's about judging your opponent, and if you have to attack here at this and wait. Don't just go about calling people dictators and insult. You don't need to shout. You just need to observe. Like Sister Madeleine, just observe, okay? Instead of talking, just be quiet and listen and judge. And if you have to attack in whatever way, then attack at that moment and not earlier, because then you expose yourself to your opponent, and not later, because you're dead anyway after that. And this attitude of waiting and not necessarily displaying your thoughts, it's actually something that I understand, believe it or not, very well, because in my part of the world, northwestern Spain, above Portugal, it's called Galicia, but Galicia, not Galicia in Poland, Ukraine, Galicia in the Atlantic coast. It's a region of Spain, and We are traditionally peasants there. We were until about, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But it is your typical peasant. In other words, we were always minifundia peasants, not multifundia ones. So instead of a lot of peasants or serfs or whatever it was in the past working for one landlord, we all had our own little plot of land. This is because the old laws, the ancient laws, instead of your property passing on to the eldest child, that was considered unfair. So the property was divided between all the children. Well, you can imagine where that's going. It's not very practical, because you end up, instead of having these vast acres of land owned by one person, you have these little thingies. But anyway, it was enough to eat. You could plant your potatoes and your kale there, the traditional vegetable, and then you always had something to eat. Then the sea is abundant. It's like the Norwegian fjords, and you have a lot of seafood. I remember actually picking mussels and cockles and things from the actual rocks. So the sea was, you always had enough to eat, and you had a couple of chickens, whatever. So that is who we were traditionally. So this is your typical peasant that you find in literature, the cunning peasant, very conservative, quiet, observant, because you only have what you have. No one is going to come and help you. Suspicious by nature. You are on the lookout. You don't necessarily trust everybody, unless the people that you know. But everybody else, traditionally, they didn't even trust doctors. Oh, the doctor. It was like lawyers. The doctor. Oh, the doctor. No, you go there with a cough and you come out without a leg or something. I know, ignorant, but. The mentality was kind of suspicious. You keep everything close to your chest. Okay, that's your typical cunning peasant, but very wise. Okay, not stupid. And the rest of Spain, the regions of Spain, known as well, let me put it this way politely. We were always seen as your traditional country hick, as it were. We were, for centuries, looked down upon by the other regions. The Castilian is very proud, not peasant-like. The Andalusian in the south is extravagant, extrovert, full of joy, in the streets, singing and dancing. Too much for us. We are culturally Celts, and with our bagpipes and our things. So quiet. But we were seen as the country hicks. And there are jokes in Spain, traditional jokes. We've all heard them. We are tired of them. That if you meet a Gallego, that's us, a Galician, you can never get an answer from him. You can never get an answer. You never know what they're thinking. They said they always answer a question with another question. For example, where are you from? Oh, why do you want to know? Something like that, So we never answer, the peasant never answers directly. He wants to know where you are going before, showing his cards, kind of thing. There's another joke that if you meet a Galician in a staircase, because we never give direct answers according to them, that if you find a Galician in a staircase, he's trying to make his mind, or he doesn't know whether to go up or down. Something like that, badly translated, but we are we never let you know, kind of thing. So to which charge the Galician replies, oh, we do know where we're going up and down. We are just not telling you. You are the one who doesn't know. We know. Don't worry about us. So General Franco was from Galicia. And it is said that legend has it that when he met Hitler at in the frontier, the border between Spain and France, Hitler was coming to ask him to enter the war and for Spain not to become neutral during the Second World War, which is what Franco wanted. And they had a long meeting. Apparently Franco got there late, about 2 hours late, and Hitler was not pleased. And this was all tactics, actually. And then they talked, and anyway, finally they agreed that Spain would be neutral somehow. And it is said, I don't know whether it's true or not, but diplomats later on said that Franco was the typical Galician there, probably asking questions with questions, or not necessarily showing his complete hand, as it were, his entire hand. And legend has it that Hitler said he was terribly displeased, and he said that he would rather spend the day at the dentist all day than to ever have to have a meeting with this little man. I have a feeling that he used these peasant tactics a little bit just to hedge his bets. You remember that Kenny Rogers song, The Gambler? You have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them and so on. Okay. Let me see my notes here. Yes. So where am I going with all this? I want to point out what our leaders who are not following JFK's example, or even the Chinese example, are engaged in this, it's almost vulgar immorality of the powerful that we see today. And it seems to me that they have crossed the moral Rubicon. I think I said this before. So they are very much saying, yes, we're doing this, so what? You know, we are seeing it in what is happening in all the countries in the West. So I don't want to go into politics. I want to retain this thought in a sort of a moral framework here. And point out, bring to mind the moral decadence, the moral degeneracy. Some call it moral bankruptcy, but I don't think that bankruptcy, financial terms, are enough to describe what we are having to endure these days from our leaders. I say this because I just saw a story, I think it was in the, where was it? In the Boston Herald, I believe. They run a story about something that happened last Friday, but it has been kept quiet, hush, hush, where a lot of, there was an orgy in a one-room apartment with drugs, alcohol, sexual toys, men dressed as women, the whole shebang thing. And one man dead. The emergency services came, but what they found was that situation, but also 4 little children hiding. Someone, an adult, was hiding them in an extra room there. 4 little children there with this sexual and orgy. And no one was charged. So, we don't know the full story yet, but to me, just having 4 little children being hidden by an adult in a room full of drugs, alcohol, sexual toys, degeneracy, men dressed as women, all this is, let us say, not healthy. So, I don't know, I have a plea to all men listening. I know that we women also have to do something, but a plea to all men: help our children, please. Help our children. Can you please organize yourself in such a way that children can be helped? Because we have reached the point where this sort of thing is going on, and we all of us, we're not doing anything about it. And I say men specifically because I think I said this before, but I'm appealing to you because you are the protectors. I have said this before, I think, but if a burglar comes into your house, you're upstairs in your bedroom asleep, and a burglar comes into your house, what do? You are the one who goes down to meet the burglar. You're not going to send your wife, go and see what is happening while you go behind the covers. You're certainly not going to send your children, go and deal with that while you stay in bed hiding. That is totally antithetical. I mean, you feel it in your bones, in your genes. That is just something that you can't do, right? And so we need you to protect children. I don't know how some young people with so much practical intelligence out there that think of something, please, so that we can protect our children. And if you are, let's say, gay or something, and you don't have children, and you are against this, and I know you are, perhaps you can do something too. Perhaps you should disassociate yourself. The G and the L should disassociate themselves from the whole of the other alphabet thing, because you are not about that. I don't know. That's what I think. You remember the story that we said about the little boy, the venom, in previous videos? You remember? It was very popular, that video. People reacted to it. A story about this little boy who's paralyzed on one side, and he's sitting, and a snake comes, and anyway he gets hold of the snake by the neck, and he keeps holding on, and no one comes to his help. He goes to the temple, he goes to the village, everyone deliberates, everyone is saying, oh, how terrible, and there you have the little boy with this huge cobra right here. And I thought that could be a good emblem, a good, what is the word, logo, a little boy with a snake here, and he only has his little fist there holding on to this snake. He can't even use the left hand, and there he is by himself, and that could be a logo, Oh dear, oh dear. So where am I going with this again? My conclusion is this. This started with the degeneration of the Catholic Church in the 70s. I believe that throughout history, when the Catholic Church forgets the cross, when the Catholic Church drops the cross and embarks upon the world, things happen to the rest of society. I don't think it's the other way around. I don't think that society degenerates first and then the Catholic Church follows suit. I think it's the other way around. Okay? They dropped the cross, and so everyone else follows. And to go back to my beginning of forgiveness and apologies, I would say this. We need more than just to hold people responsible. We need more than just demand accountability for all the corruption, for not just in this children's case, but in what is going on in politics. It's more than accountability now that we need. We need to ask for forgiveness. Not only those who are engaged in committing these crimes against children and innocence, but the rest of us also, because we haven't acted sooner and allowed it to degenerate to this point. We also need to ask children and God for forgiveness and repent for what we have not done, and then start putting it right. I feel that very strongly. That's my video for today. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.